I did another one a while ago, which was on Twitch. Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Cool. I just found the record feature.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, and I see more people are joining on. All right, we've got a couple minutes before we officially start. Appreciate everyone hopping in today to meet the team. So how we're going to run this is, any questions, just post them in the chat, and we're going to just go down the list and get through as many as we can in 1 hour. Already seeing some great questions coming in. Appreciate those. So once it hits the start time, we're going to introduce ourselves and then just hop right into the questions. And I'll be recording this so that people who missed this can listen in later. All right, we've officially hit our start time, so let's get rolling. I'll introduce myself, and the rest of the team can introduce themselves too. So nice to meet everyone. My name is Leo. I'm the community manager for Pangolin, and I'm excited to answer a lot of questions today. Brandon and Hari, you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'll go. Hey, I am Brandon. You've probably seen my little fish or the minnow popping around in Discord. I am the lead developer for Pangolin, and kind of looking forward to hanging out with y'all for the next hour.
Hey everyone. Harry Selden. So project manager at Pangolin, and looking forward to answering some questions and hopefully giving everyone a bit of transparency as much as possible and a bit of insight into what we're working on and the plans for the future.
Yeah, so those are the speakers for today. I see a couple other team members in the audience. We've got Ozga, who's a moderator, just doing a great job. I see someone who's leading our UX redesign effort out there. So really appreciate everything the team's doing. That's our team. And we're just going to start answering some questions now. So I see the first one posted from Chewbacca. Nice to meet you, Chewbacca. Question is there an idea about sex listing with X or C chain assets going through MetaMask possible or through a web wallet cross-chain transfer into a SEX? Any of you guys want to take this one?
I'm happy taking it just because I've been dealing with quite a lot of the sexes. So I guess the current issue with the sexes is the first ones that were rolled out went for the X chain, and then the new ones go with the C chain. So I mean, if I'm understanding this question, going through MetaMask possible. So from MetaMask directly to the SEX, that's currently possible today on the C chain SEXs, so KuCoin and Gate. So currently today, if you wanted to transfer from MetaMask, you can transfer money from MetaMask directly to Gate and or KuCoin, but you can only use their supported assets. So, for example, on Gate, it's Verso, and on KuCoin, it's Avalanche. We're looking at integrating with both of them. So in the future, you'll be able to take PNG directly from MetaMask directly into the SEX.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for that answer, Ari. Okay, we'll move on to the next question. And if you have follow-up questions, just type them in the chat. So this question is from Devil K. And the question is, will you launch a farm pool with Zava token, which is the Avalanche token, Zava PNG pair? Anybody have insight into that one?
I mean, I can go. This depends on the community. So we're planning on creating, PNG incentives for pools that the community wants. So we recently ran a Twitter poll, which was to vote for which projects you'd like to see rewarded with PNG tokens. And Spore's community are awesome. Like, I really love how they rally their troops, and they won. So Spore got rewards. We want to reward native tokens. Of course, that's a firm stance we want to take. But it's up to the community. Like, the hard part for us, I guess, is saying, okay, we don't want to play favorites. We want the community to decide which tokens get rewarded with PNG. So ultimately, we will host throughout, multiple avenues for community members to vote. And then if we have overwhelming support with Zava and PNG, of course, we'll create a farming pool with them. Yeah.
I think Zava was actually in that Twitter poll as one of the direct options as well. So they had some showing. Leo might know, it's like 15% of the votes or so.
Yeah, no, they had a strong community showing. So, like everyone's been saying, it's not up to this team which pairs to add. We can suggest them, but ultimately it's the on-chain votes that get rewards. So we're definitely going to post more snapshots, more on-chain votes for that kind of stuff. Good question.
And
yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Well, I was going to say, I think a part of what will make this whole community come together a little easier is making that governance process easier as well. That's kind of the big faucet for the voice of the community to show up. And we're well aware, we've heard the voices of how difficult that is to use right now. So we're working on that. I'd like to see a day when it's, no one has to ask questions of how do you use governance? How do you make proposals? How do I get PNG?
Yeah, definitely. Improving the governance system is definitely high on our priority list. So appreciate that insight, Brandon. Cool. So got a lot of questions coming in. Welcome everyone who just joined. I'm going to move on to the next one. So the next question is from Digital Worker. Nice to meet you, Digital Worker. The question is, why did you choose the AVAX ecosystem? What benefits does it give you? Anybody want to share their thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, anyone who's used Ethereum, you feel the pain, especially last week or whatnot. If you had some assets on there and you were trying to make moves when, all that market volatility was happening, I've heard some folks who were out there that would issue some transactions, pay $200-something in fees, and the transaction wouldn't even happen quick enough. And the slippage was too high, so it reverted. So now they're down $200 of a fee. The asset they wanted to sell wasn't even sold. It's worth less. They have to pay more gas to sell it again. And this might happen twice. So I had too many transactions on Ethereum that I was just bummed out with the price of gas to do simple things where you might wait 15 minutes and that became normal. And so I had a buddy tell me about Avalanche and I jumped ship immediately. It's been significantly better since. I assume the question was about us. I think the same answer applies to Pangolin, is why Pangolin is here versus anywhere else.
I'd love to add my thoughts too. I always try thinking longer timelines than perhaps other people, and when I think in timelines, especially building software, I always try to think of technical debt, and I try to think of, how long is the software going to last? How long is it going to go for? And then I look at Avalanche and I look at what they can achieve. And I just think in terms of their vision, in terms of what they're doing, they're already, so how long has Avalanche been around? 8 months, and it's already further along than Polkadot and, all of these other kind of Cardano as an example. And that's just today. Then when I start thinking about subnets and the possibilities of subnets and just what you can build is just incredibly exciting. Like I can't think of it. And I always look at technology. I'm kind of like one of these people that always looks for faults. So I constantly look, I constantly try to find things, and I still think Avalanche is far and away the best ecosystem to build on. I really do believe that.
Yeah, no, those are some great points that you guys are sharing. For me personally, I love the community here on Avalanche. I love the support we get from Ava Labs, who's building a really good layer 1 network. Just working together to make this a great DeFi ecosystem. Talking to other projects, other developers, talking to people building on Ava Labs. It's really fantastic. It's a good environment to be in for sure. I appreciate that question, Digital Worker. Okay, the next question is from Nick N1. Nice to meet you, Nick N1. The question is, where did your name come from and why Pangolin? Well, I'm assuming you're talking about our our usernames, maybe. You guys want to tell us where your usernames came from, or maybe it's the project name. We can answer both. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Pangolin, I don't know where the name came from. I'm assuming it was Connor, but we'd have to speak to Connor. He'd be the only one that would know that, I think. My username comes from an Isaac Asimov character. I'm a huge science fiction fan. And Harry Seldon is from an Asimov novel, and basically the character uses a new branch of science to predict the future.
Yeah, so the history of Pangolin is it was started by Connor, who's a brilliant engineer, and I guess he chose the name to be in theme with Avalanche. Mountains, wintry themes, mountain type animals. It's really great to kind of see all the projects in Unity around that. And yeah, what about you, Brandon?
Oh, well, I guess I'm the easiest. Brandon Mino. So B Mino seemed like a fitting choice. I think I might have first joined the Pangolin Discord a while back with a different username, and that was the Last Dorito. And that's got its own history going all the way back to, I think, middle school. Made some marketing videos, like 30-second commercials for the Super Bowl. We had a skit around the Last Dorito and what people would go to get that one Dorito.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, we'll move on to the next question. So this question is from Matt07. Nice to meet you, Matt. The question is, with how many sexes or centralized exchanges are you talking for listing right now? Hari, I think you're leading this effort. Do you want to give us an answer?
Yeah. So yeah, we're talking to a few. The issue is that sometimes we're not allowed talking about it. We would love to, but often let's talk a little bit how this normally works, right? So normally what happens is Ava Labs would engage with the sexes, and then they would start doing the technical groundwork for integrating the C chain. So then what will happen then is once that groundwork starts to happen, it's generally kept quite quiet. And then, they'll slowly release that information to us. As soon as they release that information to us, they'll generally introduce us to the kind of point person at that sex, and then we'll start engaging with them. So currently it's obviously Gate, as you know. Gate, we're still waiting. We have to get some legal documentation through to them. So we've got the lawyer working on that at the moment. And then KuCoin, we actually, I knew about this a while ago, but I wasn't allowed to tell anyone. But now that Avalanche has announced it, obviously now we can progress to the next steps with KuCoin. There's other ones in the background, and for example, I often go look at the Coin Gecko, the top 10 sexes. But there's some technical complications or groundwork that has to be laid for us to integrate with some of those.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Just to give a little more clarity on the process, it's not just filling out a form and paying a fee to get listed. It's like a dance, like a little dating ritual to get a point of contact, make sure that they think you're not a scam, because not everyone knows without doing a lot of due diligence, and there's dozens of other projects applying too, so we kind of have to push ourselves to the top of their priority as well. But yeah, that's we're making progress. Gate is getting pretty close based on what I'm seeing, and we do have a snapshot vote out to pay the marketing fee. Okay, any other thoughts on this question, or should we move on to the next one, guys? Cool, we'll move on then. Thanks for that question, Matt. Okay, this next question is from Ginger X. Nice to meet you, Ginger X. The question is, what are the current opportunities for participants to influence the development of the project? Oh, that's a good question. What do you think, guys?
That's an awesome question. So this is the hard thing, right? Like, how do we create an engaged community where your voices are heard? Brandon actually did an awesome piece of work for Snowball on quadratic voting. And if anyone spoken to me about governance, you probably know I'm a huge fan of quadratic voting. And this is a challenge, I think, in governance, is how do you make sure that, everyone in the community gets a voice? And then not only does everyone get a voice, how do you then judge upon how much people want something, right? Because a lot of people may not care about certain things. Like, everyone wants sex, right? That's pretty clear. But how do you judge whether someone really wants something or whether someone's a bit ambivalent? And yeah, they could go either way. This, I think, is what we have to improve on our governance. Currently, our governance is quite static. There has to be code. It then has to go into a wait-in. Like, the whole process is quite hard to understand, quite confusing. And the only one that really proposes governance is, generally the core team. So I think it's something that we need to improve upon. Compound does a concept of what they call a compound autonomous proposal, whereby anyone can make a proposal, and then a whole bunch of people can then obviously delegate and get it over the line. So I think at the moment the best way to influence is to make a lot of noise. I don't know if that's the best long term, but currently. And to reach out, I think, you'll see all of us in the core team are available. We don't hide behind anything, like, we're all on Telegram, we're on Discord. The best thing is to reach out and have a discussion at this stage. Like, we're always open for suggestions.
Yeah, absolutely. And it depends what your interests are. For anyone listening here, you might have more interest in the software side or the marketing side. Or maybe you're good, or you enjoy drawing. There's all of these talents can be leveraged to help Pangolin as a whole. And I think, maybe to misquote here, anyone that's gotten a role or been brought online or grabbed a bounty or really engaged with some longer term plans with Pangolin started by someone popping into a community channel and saying, "Hey, this is interesting," or "Hey, I think I can do better here. Like, I can fix this, or I can improve this," and they did it. I think you just do one of those things and reach out to any of us, and we'll kind of help you kind of hone whatever you'd like to contribute.
Yeah, those are great answers. And another aspect I'd like to add is the trade-off between kind of like speed and democracy is something that we're trying to figure out with community. There's other projects kind of taking jabs at Pangolin for just moving slow, right? It's some interesting Twitter posts out there, and they're like, Pangolin innovates too slowly, and we want to move quick, but we also want to get everyone's input, and we're just trying to find the right balance between okay, what's small enough that the team can just use their best judgment, and what's big enough that we should get this super public and voted on. So it's definitely something we work towards figuring out the right balance too. So that's a great question, Ginger X. Appreciate that. Cool. Okay, so the next question is another one from Devil K. This question is, do you believe Pangolin Dex can become a good alternative to PancakeSwap? Can it reach its volumes? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think people asked the same thing of PancakeSwap when it started. Can you reach the same volume as, other X, Y, and Z exchange? And, if you look at the volume trend and you look at the metrics there, I think everything's going in the right direction. I think you've got a team of people here committed to the project now, which only helps that development as well. And you've also got Avalanche itself being a relatively young network. So I think all these things have tremendous upside to them.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in there. I think, yeah, definitely. The thing is, you know, what you got to understand is like, what do you classify as a good alternative, right? So can it reach its volumes? I think in terms of reaching its volumes, there's a lot of network effects in this game, right? So what happens with a lot of these ecosystems is, you know, they'll often talk about the Lego building blocks, right? And, you know, with those Lego building blocks in place, there's this kind of explosion, right? So, you know, we're still kind of missing some of those Lego blocks that enable that kind of mass growth. Lending is obviously a huge one. Derivatives is another big one. So with the lending and borrowing solutions coming on, that's going to, you know, have a huge boost on our ecosystem. Once derivatives come on board, you know, Injective, I think their mainnet launches in a month, and then they'll also be coming, right? So like all of these things kind of start adding up. And I definitely see it. PancakeSwap, you know, is already struggling with that volume. Like, I don't know how sustainable they can be. But short answer, yeah, I definitely think it can reach its volumes. Also, DeFi is relatively young, right? DeFi as a concept has only been around for like a year and a half or so.
Yeah, no, those are some good answers, and that's a very natural question to ask. Is, you know, you look at the big successful dexes and you ask, can Pangolin be that? And if you think Avalanche is the next wave of DeFi, and we all think it is, it's a great L1 to build on with a lot of potential. Then I think it can be. Yeah, you know, there's some missing pieces, lending, borrowing, oracles, and the infrastructure that are getting built out. And once those are in place, you know, there's going to be so many cool things that can be built here for sure. Cool. Thanks for that question. That was a good one. So we'll move on to the next question. Let's see here. Lost my place scrolling up and down. All right. So this one is from BNL. Nice to meet you. How do you plan to develop the community in the near future? Do you have plans for regional languages? Yeah, I can take the answer to this one. I'm the community manager. I've been focusing on marketing, growth. So there's two places that are high on my priority list. It's, one, the immediate community, our existing community, and that's both the users we have and the projects in our ecosystem, right? And so one thing that's important to us that was lacking before a team was in place is how do we help other projects? Because as the biggest DEX, as the biggest project, you know, it's kind of our duty to lift up everyone around us, right? There's so many cool projects building on Avalanche, you know, Yield Yak, Snowball, Avalanche, Penguin, and they need support too. So one thing we just did is, you know, we did a giveaway campaign and we said, hey, go follow these cool projects, get some eyeballs and users in there, right? And so that's one way we really want to support the existing ecosystem. And another facet we're focusing on is just international support. You know, we're pretty big in some countries, some languages, and in others, we don't have a lot of support. If someone came and their language isn't supported, they're just going to leave because they don't know how to use the app or get help. And so since we've started, we've added a lot of international communities. I think something like 15 international communities. And, we've hired Sabo as the European expansion manager. He's finding moderators for different languages. And that's all really great. You guys have any thoughts around this, Brandon or Hari?
No, I thought you covered that great. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic answer.
Yeah, we're working on integrating more languages directly into the app as well. So if you log on to a computer with a locale of something we don't already support, you wouldn't see English by default. I think that'll be much more welcoming to individuals who don't speak English as their first language.
Cool. So thanks for that question. And thanks for the insight on the international support in our app, Brandon. So the next question we have is from Hakan. I think the A's are upside down. The question is Binance/OKEX listings. Any marketing plans? What are your thoughts, guys?
So I'll take this one. So Binance only does the exchange. So this is an interesting one. So for us to then integrate with Binance, we would need to either wait for Binance to support the C chain, which would involve significant engineering effort, or we would have to create what they call an ANT, an Avalanche Native Token. So to do that, we would have to then get all of the PNG migrated to a token that could then jump from the C chain onto the X chain and then into Binance. So Binance, there's a lot of technical complexity there. Which of course we'd all love Binance, right? It's there's a lot of users there, but there's a lot of technical complexities to that. OKX, I'm not even sure how you pronounce that. Definitely on the radar, right? So, what I look at is I go to CoinGecko, and then in CoinGecko you go to exchanges and spot, and every day I go there and I look at the top 10, and OKX is number 10 with 6.7 billion in 24-hour volume. So 100%. If it's on the top 20. I'd even argue top 15 sexes, it's definitely on our radar, and it's definitely something we're pursuing. And then marketing plans, I mean, most of these sexes require that you do marketing as part of the listing, so that they go hand in hand.
Cool, great answer, appreciate that, and thank you for the question. Okay, the next question is from Omer. Well, actually, it's just a thank you. First of all, I would like to thank everyone. And I guess I could jump down to the question a couple messages later. His question is, exactly is the team talking and discussing? I would be grateful if you could provide detailed information on this. What do you think, guys?
I could jump in. I mean, the amount of discussions we're having, it can be quite overwhelming. So we're talking about everything, right? So we're talking about the sexes, we're talking about staking. There's also, we have like a fortnightly meeting with Ava Labs to talk to their product team. So what happens is we need to make sure that we align with Ava Labs' long-term strategy. A lot of that stuff Ava Labs has requested us not to tell anyone about. So yeah, I mean, I do wish I could tell people because it's awesome, but we have to respect Ava Labs' wishes. So we talk about that, we talk about marketing, we talk about a whole bunch of things. Yeah, I mean, from technical direction to the marketing direction to expanding into new territories. There's a lot that we need to do. Governance is also a key one. How do we improve governance? Then there's also a lot of stuff that the community won't see. So sometimes, the community will go, oh, why is this feature not being done? And often it's not because we don't want to do that feature. A lot of the times it's because Ava Labs have told us something, and we know that because of something on the roadmap, if we do something, it's going to cause problems with that. And then that becomes quite a challenging situation for us because we want to be transparent with the community, but then we also have to respect Ava Labs' wishes. So a lot of it's kind of managing that. A lot of the discussions we're having is how do we scale effectively? So how do we hire new people? How do we pay new people? Some people don't accept PNG. Some people have to be paid in fiat currency if they're based in countries that don't accept crypto. So there's a lot of those discussions happening. A lot.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's a great answer, Hari. We try to publish things in Twitter, we had a Substack newsletter, in Telegram when we think it's important for the community to know. We also have a governance forum. And then, like Hari said, there's some things where we're asked to not share until it's public. So we kind of just respect the privacy of that and we don't share. Cool. Good question. Okay. So I'm going to hop back up to questions to GL. Nice to meet you, GL. So the question is regarding what Ginger X said, how can we as a community help on sharing exposure to Pangolin other than voting on Twitter? Yeah, I mean, I'd like to give my opinion, and I'm sure other people have their opinions. So I think that the word of mouth kind of peer-to-peer sharing of Pangolin is the best way to go, right? Because going from 0 to 1, onboarding into DeFi, getting into Avalanche, that's the hardest part, right? Is just showing someone the value of using Pangolin, using Avalanche. And if someone just sees that in a passing tweet, they might not take the time to go and check it out. But if someone they know says, hey, go check out this cool app I use and this ecosystem and this community, I think that goes a long way. What do you guys think?
I love this question. I think it's so cool that the community wants to get involved and help. We were talking to Sam from Frax recently, and he mentioned this thing called mercenary capital, and I think it applies to kind of mercenary communities too, right? So like, for example, we've been looking at marketing, and we've been talking to people for marketing, and they've been some of the quotes we've gotten have been outrageous. And my personal take is I love grassroots. Like build a community and from the ground up. And I think, if we do things like, events, like, so if you live in a city, let's encourage Pangolin meetups, where people can meet. Who's using Avalanche in your city? Okay, cool. Well, those are the people you want to do meetups with, whether that's like a kind of, like an introduction to DEXs. How do you trade? How do you become liquidity providers? What's the risk of impermanent loss? But these kind of grassroots communities locally, I mean, I think that would be amazing to see.
Yeah, no, that's really good. The point is, let's get meaningful community members and not just like followers in a giveaway or something, right? And another thing I want to mention is I really want to make our Telegram a very positive environment. It's the place where new users land first. People come and check out what Pangolin is about, and I like most of the messages to be like help for new people and instructions and language support. And if you want to have a really in-depth discussion, Telegram's good too, but there's other places. There's our governance forum, there's Discord. And I know when I first found the Pangolin Telegram, there was a lot of kind of heated debate, which is healthy, but also I feel like that scares off new people if it's too critical. That's just how I feel about the Telegram medium.
And I spend most of my time on Discord versus Telegram. So we've got a support channel in there, a general channel, and it's always super encouraging to see people come through the support channel and not only get their stuff answered, but they're kind of learning as they're going through it. And even cooler than that is when someone's come through there before, I might have walked them through something, and then they come back through the next day and they answer somebody else's question. And you're like, well, all freaking right. That's awesome. Like, that's a community. And that's what I want to keep building.
Yeah, that's a great question. Just everyone helping everyone in the community would be awesome to see. So really good question. Thank you for that, GL. Okay, the next one on the list is from Dominic. Nice to meet you. The question is, what new features will you introduce to make Pangolin different from other DEXs? What do you guys think?
Sure. This is a challenging one. Yeah, I'll let Brandon go.
Sure. I think we've got some sound fundamentals already here. And there's some already efforts going on to improve the user experience of Pangolin. For instance, the actual visual appeal that you'll see when you come to the app, to be a style that's not the same thing you would expect from Uniswap or PancakeSwap or any of these other kind of cloned systems. There's some ideas as well to clean up some of this. For instance, you could have deposits into your pools single-sided. So you could, take your AVAX and you could deposit that and it would split it under the hood for you using something like a Zapper. And there's other kind of ideas around bridging integration, other things coming to the network, as well as things we can do with governance. I think a lot of people come out here and they'll say that, the strength of their app or their DApp is the community. And it really is driven that way on Pangolin. So I like to see some more features pop out that are directly hooked to governance, where you really view that power that you have as a PNG holder.
Yeah, I agree with Brandon. Like for me, the thing is, let's compare Uniswap. Let's even take Sushi and let's take PancakeSwap. They got these public relations machines that are like, oh yeah, we're community driven, and it's bollocks. It's like, I mean, I'm sorry to say, but like, it's smoke and mirrors. Whereas like our true power is we literally are, in my opinion, the most community organized and run DEX. I mean, that's not like, for me, that is a key feature. But beyond that, I think, so let's look at where DEXs go, right? So like, what is the point of a DEX? A DEX is obviously there to enable people to swap tokens effectively, but really it's a way for liquidity to be capital efficient. So how do you make capital as efficient as possible? And currently, that's what Uniswap v3 is trying to achieve with their kind of bans. I think they lost a lot of the composability that DeFi enables. So my personal thing is, how do we make Pangolin the winner in this, and we have to be able to provide a mechanism where capital is the most efficient. And then, of course, the community is key. And in order to make it truly a community-run DEX, a community-run project, we have to make sure governance matches that. So how do we ensure that everyone has a voice, that we have an engaged community, that when people vote, that their voice matters? That's going to be critical, I believe.
Yeah, those are good answers. We definitely have things on the roadmap. We recognize that Pangolin has just been a fork for a long time, but now that we have a full-time team, there's so many things we can do. And my perspective on this is, I think I've said it before in Telegram. It's our competitors aren't these other DEXs in Avalanche. We want to actually support builders here, no matter what they're building, even if it's a DEX. Our competitors are, the other networks. Like, how do we get people to use us over PancakeSwap and things like that? So, no, it's a good question. Thank you. Okay, the next one is from Crypto Barik. So the question is, Zava launch on KuCoin was a great success. PNG shall be the second asset, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on this?
That's the game. That's the game plan. We've got to make sure. The thing is, there's always like a lot of paperwork for this, like way too much paperwork than anyone could imagine. So we're starting that process and we're doing all of our due diligence. 100%. Like that's the game plan. We just got to get through the paperwork and all the legal odds and ends.
Yeah, definitely. I'm also starting to learn how many you need to jump through to get listed on the exchange. Cool. Okay. So the next question from Omer we answered earlier, and the next one after is from Alex. It's a short one. When poker? I think it's like an inside joke.
I think it might be addressed to me because I've talked about a poker subnet, but I don't have time for that now. Like, not for a few years, I'd imagine.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, subnet's powerful stuff. Okay, so the time check is we're about 36 minutes into the AMA, and we're going to go for about an hour, try to get through as many questions as possible. So the next question is from As Me. Nice to meet you. Question is, now you can only earn if you are a liquidity provider. Want to add more ways to farm?
So one of the things in the immediate feedback from the community was single-sided staking. That was kind of an ambiguous term. And some of the ideas we've been tossing around between myself, Leo, and Justin are kind of different mechanisms to do that and make that possible. Well, at the same time, considering that what Pangolin really needs is that liquidity, right? We're a DEX, and so we need volume and liquidity to make that capital efficient enough to make you swap here without any slippage. And so we just had an idea pop up late last night that I think might work the same way that you're asking for, where you could have some sort of, you could be earning PNG without being a liquidity provider, while at the same time providing a net benefit to all of the other liquidity providers that are staking. So if we want to mention that, or you kind of wait to see if that gets implemented.
Yeah, I think we should have more details around the feasibility of that, for sure. And like Brandon said, as a DEX, we do want to incentivize liquidity. So that's the main reason for the PNG rewards. But again, we can also use the incentives to drive other user behavior, such as single-sided PNG, which we should have more information on as Brandon looks into the technical side. So good question. Cool. So the next one is from Arazi Arachi. Nice to meet you. The question is, why don't you ask Sam to list PNG on FTX? He is already getting paid since the launch of Pangolin. That's brilliant. What do you guys think?
Saucy.
I think FTX is in the top 15, so it's definitely a sex we'd be targeting. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know a lot of people kind of hate on Sam, so we weren't quite sure what the community would feel about us listing on FTX, but I think it makes sense.
Yeah, if they'll have us, I mean, no one here is opposed to it. I mean, hell, if I know there's been some feedback around Sam's trading decisions and kind of forming some policies to maybe incentivize that otherwise. But I mean, Sam seems fine to me. He's providing a much needed liquidity to the DEX. And honestly, if he wants to have a conversation, I am full on to have that, whether that be for a listing or just to understand some of his decisions and why he uses Pangolin. We want this to be a DEX for everybody.
Yeah, I actually pinged him on Discord and I didn't get a response, which is was expected. But yeah, so Sam and FTX. FTX is a good exchange, and if we could get there, that'd be awesome. The Gate.io listing, if we get that, should open up a lot of doors for us because a lot of exchanges want to see the credibility of, oh, you're listed already, you have good trading volume, cool, we'll add you too. So that's the first step, is to just get listed somewhere, right? Okay, so the next question is from Wazan. Nice to meet you. Question is, Avalanche is quite a young platform. Where do you want to take the liquidity to scale successfully in the future? What are your thoughts, everyone?
So, I mean, in terms of where do you want to take the liquidity to scale successfully? So for me, liquidity must be in traditional economics. Obviously, the whole point is to have capital efficient markets. And currently, we're not capitally efficient. Actually, Crypto Fish is on here. I saw him sneak in, and he actually made a very good point that Pangolin currently. There is some capital inefficiencies. There's a lot of liquidity in certain pairs, but not a lot of trading volume on those pairs. So for that, and again, I'll mention it again, Uniswap v3, that's kind of the whole reason for the design, was to make it more capital efficient. So we have to use that liquidity in order to be the most efficient, which will allow us to scale. How we do that is technically very complex, but that's my thoughts. We have to use that liquidity for our mass benefit. Also, once we get other protocols, we can then use that liquidity and it becomes a lot more. I guess this is the question, right? So sometimes liquidity, as it jumps through too many hoops, it becomes riskier and riskier. And you can see that with BSC, right? You got a whole bunch of devs that jumped in and didn't quite know what they were doing, changed a bit of code and got absolutely wrecked. So we've got to be good custodians of our liquidity. And I know sometimes people will go, why can't you move faster? Why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? And a lot of times it's because we don't want to get wrecked and we don't want people to lose money. So yes, we need to be more capital efficient, but not at the expense of safety.
Absolutely. And that's one of those trade-offs, as Leah mentioned as well, with the democracy versus community. It's the same thing here with safety versus innovation. The faster you go, the more risks you're taking, and that really does take time to do the due diligence on that. The two kind of obvious answers I see, and Balancer's taken an approach, Curve has taken an approach, Uniswap is kind of going down their route. You could do the vertical integration. Things as simple, which would require actually a V2 of Pangolin, where you could change that XYK curve to be more efficient at different ranges of liquidity. and that's got trade-offs. There's also the horizontal approach where you go cross-chain and you're aggregating liquidity with partners on BSC or Polygon or even Ethereum. But these are all, there's pros and cons for it.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that as you see lending platforms start to build here, like Banky and things, you're going to see liquidity moving a lot more frequently and in larger volumes too on Avalanche for sure. Okay, thanks for that question. The next question is from Crypto Bus. Nice to meet you. Question is, what bottlenecks did you manage to solve during development, and what conclusions did you draw?
So we are still pretty young since the actual governance vote for a core team. And the one, obvious hurdle I could see is as we were taking on more suppliers and members, if we have any sort of marketing relationship or someone's doing writing for us or some developing, or we even have to pay exchange listings. Everything we do is in our multisig, which is gated behind those 6 required signatures. And if you want to pay 20 people, you're going to have to submit 20 different confirmations to that multisig, which needs 6 people for each of them to come out and be available, pay the gas for it. So we spent some time to develop some infrastructure to get around that, where you can do kind of a contractual method to load all of your distributors, and you can pay them with one multi-sig confirmation. So just the 6. And that's public. Anyone can use that. It's kind of a public service to Avalanche that we can leverage. But there's a lot of admin stuff going into running a DEX or any sort of project, as some of you probably already know. And we're working our way through that as we tackle kind of one road bump after another.
Yeah, that's a good answer. And another kind of roadblock or challenge we face is these on-chain proposals, kind of just the requirements to get one on and the duration to make changes. There's a lot of change we want to make in the first few months that we're working full time, and the pace is a bit rigid right now. So we're looking into ways to speed that up. Cool. So I appreciate that question. The next one is from Yes Then. The question is, what are Pangolin's main tasks this quarter?
So we kind of go off that roadmap, which was, again, not to beat the point here, it was based off of community feedback. So from the technical side, one of the big lifts is going to be that UI overhaul. I've seen a couple of renders. It looks a lot better, in my opinion. It's not going to be Uniswap anymore.
Uniswap.
Right, as well as the other thing of a technical point of view was that single-sided staking that's on the roadmap. That was overwhelming feedback, and I've already started working on a few different implementations to see if they're feasible for that. Off the roadmap, there's some other things I'm interested in. As we've mentioned, governance is incredibly important, and I've been working on some other things to speed that along. A common point of feedback was that when you're doing snapshots with PNG, for instance, you have to pull your liquidity just to voice your opinion. And I think that's ridiculous. I think a lot of people do, and it doesn't have to be that way. So we're making progress there as well.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Thanks for that, Brandon. Cool. So about 15 minutes left in the AMA, and I'm thinking if we don't get through all the questions in voice, we'll just answer them in text asynchronously. So we'll get all the questions answered. Okay, the next one is from Dominic. Nice to meet you. Question is, shouldn't we remove some rewarded pools that have been there since the beginning but don't add value to Avalanche? How can we efficiently do that? Polls? What are your thoughts, team?
The only way to change pools is through governance. So the way that governance works is that everything that changes at the protocol level has to go through a governance. So to remove rewarded pools currently means that you have to do an on-chain proposal. So the community can definitely voice their preference for which pools they would like to remove by, posting on the forum, by posting snapshot votes, by, gathering support from within the community. But in order for us to remove them, it has to go through an on-chain proposal.
And I'm certainly happy to work with anybody who wants to start an effort for that. I know that the technicals can be overwhelming, and even this morning, I've gotten a couple of DMs of people wanting to do this and wanting to know how. So happy to help out with that. So it's not an obstacle for anyone.
Yeah, and we have the same opinion of, let's support more native assets and less assets that aren't building here. But like Hari said, the way that our system is set up is we can't just click a button and it changes. It's all controlled by the governance voting system. So it's an on-chain vote. Good question. Cool. So the next one is from Digital Worker. And the question is, how much PNG does it take to enter governance now?
So right now, this is also based loosely off the light paper, where it takes 1 million PNG to propose a proposal. You don't have to hold that in one person. Like, you don't have to have it all in your own wallet. You can do what's called delegating, which is where any number of other members from the community can take their PNG and say, hey, I will give you the voting rights for my PNG. Like, I trust you to make decisions that are in my own interest. And they don't have to send you their PNG. They don't have to have that PNG leave their wallet. It's not at risk of being rug pulled. But you can get, 10,000 people to delegate PNG to you, or you can have a project. For instance, there's Snowball, there's Spore, I'm sure others that have a multi-sig wallet that represent their project. And you can delegate to your favorite project to say, hey, I like what you're doing. I trust that you're going to represent my interest in Pangolin's governance system. And then you don't have to be so focused on tracking proposals. You can kind of delegate that responsibility to somebody else.
Cool. Thanks for the answer. Okay. The next question is from Arif. Nice to meet you. Question is, as an end user, I am more interested how it looks and feels while using the platform. It's very fascinating that the speed of Pangolin is super. But what about the UX/UI? It's not as fascinating as its underlying technology. What do you guys think?
So as we mentioned a little bit, the current implementation of the UI UX is based on Uniswap's V2 implementation. And once upon a time, believe it or not, that was cutting edge. It was clean, crispy, and the way to go. And it's seen some good times and it's seen some dated times. So as we mentioned, we're already in progress to update that to something a little more modern, a little more custom to Pangolin itself. And going forward, again, anyone in the community is certainly welcome to give feedback on that. Like, we're trying to develop what we can to be, pleasing to as many people as possible.
Yeah, and in terms of the UI UX, it's we want to get feedback, but we also need to understand that if we opened up user testing to thousands of people, it would then delay our ability to deliver it. So we do actually have like low fidelity wireframes for the new UX UI, and yeah, we're making good progress on that.
Perhaps when that gets a little bit further along the lines, can release that out for just broader feedback. It's just a teaser.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we'll have an announcement soon of the direction we're going to take with the UX UI, and we have a pretty good UX design company that we've engaged working on this right now. Good question. Thank you. Okay, so the next one is from LL Crypto J. Welcome. See you on Twitter all the time. Great account. So the question is, what additional features can we expect in the UI? Features like limit order, or how about an app or a wallet, NFT support? Thanks. What do you guys think?
I mean, this is an interesting one. So, like, we've got so limit orders, there's a lot of kind of external or other projects that are building that. So then we've got to kind of make a decision. Do we build our own? Do we embed their functionality? Is that engineering effort that could be going elsewhere? So limit orders, it's quite often requested. So I know that there's a bit of work going on there. Who was that? There's a project that does do it using. Does anyone know offhand?
It's like Unibot or something like that, right? They reached out to us.
Yeah, and I mean, we do understand that limit orders are something that is requested. So we're definitely looking into it. In terms of an app or wallet, I love the idea personally of a mobile application. I think 1inch has got an application that they've deployed on. I don't know if it was an iOS or Android. I think it was an iOS. That's why. Yeah. So 1inch has deployed an app. I think personally, I'd love it. Whether the community thinks that's worthwhile in terms of engineering effort, I think it's very cool. Also, there's so many wallets nowadays. Do we build our own app or wallet, or do we just integrate with the hundreds of available ones there? And then NFT support. I mean, that's part of. I know it's been included in some of the renders for the UI. So it's definitely within the realms of discussion at this stage.
Yeah, I think so. We definitely don't have a native app, Android, iOS type app. You certainly can open up MetaMask on your phone, which is an app, and you can use their browser to go through Pangolin's site, and it's responsive enough to be usable there. And we get a few pieces of feedback in our Discord around different users working their way through that functionality. But yeah, if that, as per usual, if that's something that's really up there, we can, kick off some development towards a native app.
Cool. Thanks for the answer. It's a good question. Appreciate that. All right. The next question is from Ginger X. What are your future plans for DeFi? Will there be new features? So a bit similar to the last one.
Right. As Avalanche is growing, we're kind of getting more interest from partners that have previously engaged with other chains or been focused on other chains. And a part of how you connect those through different varying bridging mechanisms. So also in those renders for the new UX is going to be some built-in functionality to bridge your tokens on and off of the Avalanche network with Pangolin as that landing and launching point. So you'll be able to swap everything you like there, as well as go to BSC perhaps, or another network that we've partnered with.
Yeah, good answer. Getting assets on and off the network is a big challenge, and if we had that natively integrated into Pangolin, that would be way easier for users to understand than having to go to a different place, for sure. Good question, Ginger X. Okay, so we got about 4 minutes left. Just want to be cognizant of everyone's time. We're going to try to get through 2 more, and then we can answer the questions just in the chat for people after that. So the next question is from Wazan. What technologies do you use at your backend?
So Pangolin's kind of neat in that we don't have a quote-unquote backend. And you could take Pangolin and run everything that you want from your desktop and interact with the contracts just fine. If you pull up the GitHub and grab a Pangolin dex / interface, you can deploy everything you see on the URL there. We're split with our front end right now. We've got the actual landing page built in Svelte and the traditional swapping page in React. And all of this gets bundled up and deployed to IPFS.
Yeah. So, the cool thing about DeFi technology is you're interacting with smart contracts. That's basically your backend, right? That's what handles the token exchanges and the wallet interactions, and then the app runs in your browser. So, we're not hosting any computers at Pangolin other than the computer that serves code to your browser. It's pretty cool architecture for sure. All right, the next one is from Dominic. Have you got any plans/projects to siphon some of the user base from other chains, such as BSC or Matic? It's a good word, siphon. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, the whole point, like it's easier attracting users that are already used to DeFi versus users that have no experience of DeFi, right? So the thing is, it makes sense to target users that have that level already. Yeah.
Yeah, so from my perspective, it's all about the bridges, right? How do we make it as easy as possible to hop right into Avalanche from BSC? And there's a lot of good stuff going on integration-wise, just even outside the scope of Pangolin to work on that. So once that's in place, once it's very easy to just bring your funds over, it's going to be huge for the ecosystem.
And the thing is, BSC already people are kind of leaving in droves because they get in, so many projects are getting wrecked, right? So I mean, so we've got to make sure that we're a nice safe place for people to come, and that's going to be key, right? Because we do offer the user experience, we offer the speed, we offer all of those things. So of course, Matic's also an interesting one, right? Because the user experience, in my opinion, when I tried it, was pretty poor. So we can attract those users by providing better user experiences.
Cool, good answer. Okay, so we've budgeted 1 hour for this AMA. I still see maybe 20 more questions in here. You guys think we should keep going, or you want to just take this offline and we can just reply to the rest of the questions? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I've got about 10 more minutes.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Okay, cool. So everyone, you're welcome to stay. We're going to go for 10 more minutes, and anything we don't get to, we're just going to answer in the chat. Cool.
Pango chat? Oh, that's nice. I like that.
We have a new sticker pack too. It's by our artist Marvin. Pretty cool stickers.
That is nice.
All right. So the next question is from Mamet. Nice to meet you. When single-sided PNG farm? And I really appreciate the phrasing. Questions that start with when are very crypto. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, we've tossed around a few ideas, kind of debating the merits of the security issues or the benefits to kind of users in the broader sense. In the last 3 or so days, we go back and forth. So I think we're gonna have to decide on one implementation to go for. Not to say it's only one, but you need one to go with to actually flesh out. I think once that happens, and I've got a good idea of the complexity, the time scale to do it, and what the hurdles are to implement, you'll be hearing for the more immediate timeline.
Yeah.
It is on the roadmap. So
yeah,
I'd expect that in the nearer term.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Leo.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, my thing is just one thing to take note of is that, anytime there's new code, we have to go through audits, and audits take time. So I just want to set that expectation, right? That if it's a new code, it's not like, oh yeah, we write the code and then tomorrow we can deploy to production. We have to go through due diligence before we can deploy any form of production code.
Yeah, it's important. If you're not that in tune with smart contract development, once you put the code on the blockchain, it's out there and you can't change it. And a lot of projects have been wrecked by this. Last year on Ethereum, Yam Finance was super popular. They had a bug in their minting and it just tanked their project. It's kind of dead now just because they didn't do the right audits and testing. So like Hari said, very important to test and audit the contracts, especially if it's new code.
Yeah, any contract that holds funds itself is particularly something to watch. require specific attention. And yeah, like you can still trade Uniswap V1. Like you can't take those contracts down. There's maybe not much of an incentive, but like I thought that was cool when I started trading V2 was that, you know, the nature of smart contracts are not, you can't mutate them.
Cool. Good question. Okay. The next one is from Nickin1. Do you have any plans for gamification? Oh, that's a good question. I can start with this one. So one thing that's really cool in our UX redesign is the designers have recognized there's two categories of users. You know, one are the more fun-oriented users. You know, they want NFTs, avatars, games. And then there's the other more business, trading, professional side who just really want the analytics, you know, and a lot of information to make the best trades. So I think the plan is to kind of have a toggle between the two of, you know, if you want this flavor of the app, you can do that. Or if you want the other, you can do that too. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I've got an idea. I don't know if people will like it, but I really like what they've done on Ethereum, where you get like a degen score. So basically, what it does is it goes through your wallet's history, and then it kind of checks which protocols you've interacted with, and it kind of gives you a score. I think that would be pretty cool. Like, let's say, for example, you log onto Pangolin and you connect your MetaMask, and it says, okay, well, this user has, you know, used Snowball's stable vault. Okay, this user has played around on Penguin. They've done a bit of stuff on Yieldjack, and then it gives you a score based upon how many protocols within the ecosystem you've interacted with. Like, and then it would give you like a degen score. Like, I think that would be pretty cool. But again, that's just an idea I've had. It's not necessarily going to happen.
Oh yeah, we recognize that, you know, gamification is attractive and important to a lot of people. Like you look at the success of PancakeSwap, and they're all about that. So it's definitely on our radar. Good question. Okay, so we have one from Rug Pull Community Leader. Do your own research. They really appreciate everything your community is doing. For those not in the know, they kind of scan new tokens and projects to prevent rug pulls and do some research. So the question is, there's some pretty loud typing. Is there anything that can be done about stopping projects from adding 2 of their own coins to a liquidity, which in turn creates a false amount of liquidity? It shows on the list that the coin has a huge amount of liquidity when they really don't have it. Edit, I have to leave. But don't answer my question if you don't want to. Okay, so I guess this isn't an answer for them, but for everyone. So I think what they're describing is there's this way that some projects are able to make it seem like they have a lot of liquidity in the analytics page of Pangolin. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, this is a bug that plagues not just us, but the Uniswap V2 also has this problem. And it kind of comes down to how we allow anybody to create their own liquidity pools. And when you create that pool, you deposit the initial assets, allowing you to set the prices. And I think, I haven't looked so deep at this, I believe what ends up happening is we take those deposits, they get indexed at the time into our graph node, and then we supply that data historically for the analytics. So if you're quick enough, you know, you can artificially inflate a price and take a small hit for your tokens before anyone else can come in and fix the price. The graph will index it, and then analytics will show that. This can't be changed from a contract level, just in the nature of deploying our system and how it allows anyone to create their own pools. There might be some approaches to mitigate this in how we index data, or definitely how we display data. I think that's right. I think those should be accurate numbers that you can make the best decisions for trading. And we've actually looked at some alternatives to analytics that might get around this altogether.
Yeah, and it's not technically like a true bug, right? It's more of like a clever workaround, because, you know, if you trade your own token for $1,000, right, and it's worth $1,000 because that was the last trade, and then you mint $1,000 more, and you don't give that to anyone, but it's liquidity. It's hard to say, well, do we exclude that liquidity, or is that actually liquidity on the network? You know, it's kind of a gray area, right? So
yeah, it is accurate.
that's kind of the topic of, like Brandon said, we could identify these and potentially blacklist them from the UI. Like, this is obviously just meant to be confusing to people, so we don't want to show it. We could do that. But as for is it accurate information, it's a bit gray because mathematically it is accurate. So that's an interesting question. Cool. Okay, so we've got about 3 minutes until we reach our bonus 10 minutes of questions. This next one's just a statement from Ham Jackma. Nice to meet you. List on Binance Exchange. Yeah, we would love that. If exchanges were a supermarket and we were shopping, we'd go straight for the Coinbase, straight for the Binance aisles, right? But unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Binance probably gets dozens and hundreds of requests for listings a week. And what we have to do is we have to establish ourselves as reputable, high trading volume. And how we do that is we get on these smaller exchanges, build up a reputation to be more attractive to the large ones like Binance. What do you think, Hari?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and so there's a few different things. There's a technical component, and then there's the actual paperwork and the negotiation and all of those types of things. So we need to get both of those over the line. So like Binance, for example, is integrated with the exchange. So from a user experience, getting PNG onto Binance at the moment would be a pretty bad user experience. It would mean you would need to have every single PNG in circulation swapped to a new version of PNG. So that's just not technically feasible, right? I mean, when theoretically, if they built in the C chain integration, it would be a lot easier. So there's the technical challenges, then there's the legal challenges and the paperwork challenges and the negotiating challenges. So then you've got to negotiate with them. And, as we've experienced, some of them, they're quite cagey. They don't necessarily say you need to pay X, but they kind of like feel you out to see how much you can afford. So there's kind of this like weird Mexican standoff, I guess, like where you kind of like determine how much you got to pay the piper to get your token listed. So, and then you got to go through the lawyers. So you got to make sure that legally it's just like, I think Leo mentioned it pretty well. It's like a dance. You've got to do this dance. And we're doing the dance as much as we can. Yeah.
Cool. No, that's a great question. Obviously, that's the dream, right? To get on Binance. I think if we keep going at the rate we're going, it's definitely achievable in the future. Cool. So we're at 3:10. We've been going for about an hour, 10 minutes, and I just want to be cognizant of the team's time and everyone listening's time too. So what we're going to do is this is recorded. I did take notes on all the answers. And for the questions that we didn't get to, we're going to go through the rest of the day and just reply to them individually. Does that sound good to you guys, Brandon and Hari?
Yeah, sounds good.
Sure.
Cool. Okay, great. So this was really good. This is our first kind of Telegram AMA. I thought it went really well, and we're going to do more of these. So appreciate everyone's time. If you have more questions, just throw them in the chat, and we'll get to them. We'll get to them via text. So thanks, everyone. We'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, this was really good.
All right, take care.
Yep. Bye.
Cheers, everyone.